Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren Fix and Karl Brauer. Each week we deliver the latest breaking news, vehicle reviews, and inside look at what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up, it's time to hit the road with The Drive.
Welcome to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. And this week we have a very special guest. It's Al Vazquez. Now, you may not have heard of him, but when you see him on our YouTube channel, which is the Drive Car Show, you'll say, I've seen that guy before. We typically ride together if Karl's unavailable, and we do our car reviews, which are on my Car Smarts channel. But Al has such an interesting story. We had to bring him on because we wanted you to hear his story. Al Vazquez, welcome to The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. And like always, have a great time every time we ride together. And of course, I know Karl for a long time, so it's a great pleasure to be here, Lauren. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, Al, to join us. Lauren and I were just saying that we think you've got this great story, your background, what led you here, and your experiences. Last week, you continue to have really interesting things going on. So, give us kind of your version of what you feel like led you to here, got you to the position of being kind of this global automotive media experience and expert, and what you're doing now and what you really enjoy about it.
It's over 2 decades. It's a long time that I've been doing this, and I don't consider myself like a full generalist because I came from a magazine that I was doing everything in the magazine. I was designing, I was editing, I was taking pictures, I was doing paparazzis, I was doing everything, and the magazine had a car section. But before that, I was in Mexico because I wanted to be a soap opera actor. I wanted to be in the novelas, the Mexican novelas. So that's what I went to school and ended up taking cinematography classes and video classes, and that's how all this happened. But I was in a magazine for over 15 years, and it was a great experience because it led me to what I am today. So many people ask me, I want to do what you do. How do I do it? And I never planned to be a YouTuber. In fact, at the beginning, I was even embarrassed to say I was a YouTuber. Not anymore, but at the beginning, I was a little embarrassed. But it's been a long time. Eventually, in around 2016, 2017, the magazine closed. Uh, and I was married to a publisher, and I got divorced, and I was out of a job. And I said, "Oh my God, what would I do now?" So my YouTube channel is like 20 years old right now, but I only been working on it for about 9 years.
And you're
So
crushing it, by the way.
I had 2,000 subscribers. I remember I used to give my dog bath. I used to cook whatever and show videos, but it was never something that I did. So I say, okay, let me try start loading up videos and put them on and see what happens. And slowly, they started taking off. And I would say within a year and a half of doing that, I say, oh, wow, this is making me enough money to just do this and stay without looking for a job and go. And it's been incredible since then because it keeps growing and growing. And then Instagram came and YouTube is getting bigger. Now it's TikTok and it's all videos, Lauren, because right now I hear people saying, I'm going to write a story. And I'm okay, I appreciate that. But who reads a story now? People want to see it, they want to feel it, they want to be part of it. And the industry's changed 100%. And I think I was able to navigate with it to this point that I am now, which is I'm producing content every day. And
a lot of content on everything.
Yeah, 90% is cars, but I mix in lifestyle, I mix in food, I mix in everything I'm doing. And people people say, "Oh, I like the way you're doing it now," because we like to see the whole experience that you're doing, the trip, the food. Even some people say, "Oh, why you publish the hotel?" Because sometimes the companies pick the hotel that goes with the car. Even the drinks have car names on it. So people like to see that, and I think it's incredible because uh, I don't consider myself an influencer, but that's the way it's going, and people want to call me that. It's fine. I don't have any problem with it. But it's been a long experience. Yes.
Well, authenticity, I think we all know, is the single most important characteristic that you can have as an individual who is broadcasting their own channel. If you've got your own channel or channels across multiple social media outlets, the most important characteristic that viewers want to get is authenticity. That I'm hearing and seeing the real Al or the real Karl, the real Lauren, not some packaged thing that you only get to see, very carefully configured presentations. And when you start doing not just the cars you're driving, but the hotels you're staying at, the drinks you're having, the foods you're eating, and stuff like that, now they're not just watching you as a car guy, they're watching you as a human who has multifacets and does more than just drives cars.
And I think that's what people want. That's why Instagram has done well, TikTok has done well, and you've just kept expanding over the years. It's been impressive to watch you. I remember when you were talking with our friend who recently passed, Paul Bryan, and you said, "Now what am I going to do?" And I said, "Do whatever you want. It's a clean slate." And when you have that opportunity, you can either make it something fabulous like you have, or you might find yourself in a different field. So I give you a lot of kudos for making yourself a global star.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that, for example, this past weekend, since I still have all these magazines connection, I was invited to a celebrity birthday party in their house. So many people from TV, big names on the Hispanic market were there. All of them with no jobs now, and they're asking me if I have some work for them, and how do you start the channel, and how long does it take? Big name, big stars. I said, oh my God, this is changing. This is not like before, and that surprises me because some of these people I admire them, and I was, oh my God, I want to be like that. Now they're asking me, how do I do that?
It's crazy. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but this is great stuff, Al. Thank you again
Lots
for
of more
coming on.
good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to come on and we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of experiences Al's having, and industry is just changing, like you said. So we will be right back with more on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. And on this episode, our special guest, Al. And I want to say that this segment is brought to you by iSeeCars.com. That's where I'm executive analyst, and I do a lot of the research and help IC Cars tell very interesting stories about what's going on in the automotive marketplace with big data. But of course, if you just want to research a car, whether it's local, national, or anywhere in between, iSeeCars.com, you can find all the vehicles listed out there at dealers, new and used, and figure out which car you want to buy next. So Al, we just got done talking about kind of your background and how you went from kind of playing around with YouTube to earning your complete living there and actually doing as well or better than some of the people that used to have more traditional media jobs in various industries. And now they're looking at you saying, how do I do what you're doing? You've one of the reasons you've been so successful is just the breadth of everything that you are exposed to now and what you can report on. Can you go into that a little bit more? I mean, obviously, if you're in the U.S. and you get U.S. press cars, you can tell stories about U.S. press cars, and that's what a lot of us are doing. You're doing a lot more than that. What are you doing beyond just U.S. press cars that you can cover, and where do you go to do it?
Yes. Well, imagine this. My channel is in Spanish. So in the US, maybe 50 million people speak Spanish, but then over 20 other countries do. And when you go online, everybody's watching you. And I didn't realize that until people started calling me from everywhere, that in South America and Spain, I'm a big deal, that I something that I didn't look for. Uh, they bring me down to Bolivia, Argentina, Chile, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, uh, to see cars and drive cars that I never seen before in my life. Some of these cars, when I get there, I say, "What is that?" And most of them are from China, Chinese cars. So I go, for example, next month I'm gonna be in Bolivia for 10 days, and this guy has 8 dealers. He brings cars from China, and the way he shows me how much he pays for the car, how much he pays for the taxes, and then how much he's selling it for. And I compare that to what we're doing, like from with the cars here in the US, and I say, oh my God, what is happening in the world? The world is changing fast in the car industry, in the car business, because 5, 10 years ago, I would say these cars are crap. Not anymore. These are really nice cars, half of the price, and same 5, 6 years guarantee, 50, 100,000 miles sometimes guarantee, and how the world is going to change. I say within 5 years, all these markets, I'm going to drive Chinese cars, maybe 10% of the rest. Who's going to survive? I don't know. It's, for me, it's a big experience, what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at. And I feel bad for some of the car companies. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, that could be an interesting question in itself.
Yeah, no, but I think you're absolutely right, Al, and I think, it's very easy in America to think it's all about America. For so many decades it was in this industry, but clearly we're being challenged by other markets, primarily Chinese brands coming out of China and really starting to run down and run over other markets like Europe and South America in terms of market share. And we've got tariffs in place that makes it very difficult, and not to mention dealer franchise laws make it very difficult for Chinese car companies to sell in the U.S. But that doesn't mean they're not going to succeed by not without selling here. They can sell everywhere else and do quite well. And do we end up with this total like closed off market where just U.S. cars are sold to U.S. residents? Could be
Possible.
worse. Could be worse if you look at Europe. That they're not going to have a car market at all because they're going to have, not a domestic car market. They're going to have a Chinese car market and nothing but a Chinese
Yes,
car market the way things are
yes.
going. So there's
It's
no
yeah,
there's no
it
easy
will be
answer,
like
is
that.
there?
Yeah. Well, for me, seeing what's happening now and going back when Toyota came to the US, they adapted. They say you need factories, we build the factories, and the Chinese are gonna do the same thing eventually. Right now, we have a government like guiding what's going on here, what's coming in and out, but eventually one door is gonna open and it's gonna change. I know that
Right.
because we have everything Chinese here. Go to Walmart.
Right. Yeah, we're
It's
going to
true.
pop it into neutral real quick here and pay some bills. We'll be right back with Al Vasquez after the break. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Carl. This segment is brought to you by Car Coach Reports. Cut through the noise, real car news, real reviews, and no spin. Watch Car Coach Reports on YouTube, and the full car reviews are on Car Smarts on YouTube. Get the facts before you buy. Now, we were just talking with Al Vasquez, who's our guest this week, and some very interesting subjects about Chinese cars. But in the break, and if you missed the break, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is The Drive Car Show, and you can watch it. Also, our social media is The Drive Car Show. And we're talking off air about Teslas. And if you haven't been watching the news, Tesla says they're going to kill their Model S, which is their original, four-door sedan, and the Model X, which is their SUV, because their sales are down. Now, Al, you've got an interesting perspective on this because you've been to China and you've seen what's going on. Tell us your thoughts on this Tesla big announcement.
Well, in China, most of the cars that you see in China, new cars, are Chinese cars. They're not bringing cars in. But I did saw a few Teslas there. Also in Bolivia, the dealer that I go there with, they sell the Teslas. They bring them from China. And the problems that we have with the Tesla here in the US and the control quality that we all talked about at the beginning, that doesn't happen. They're really perfectly made, really good quality. And in Bolivia, for example, it's a big deal to own a Tesla. If you have a Tesla, you're rich, you're important. You go wow, because I mean, you have a Tesla, and when I see that, I say, well, what do you mean you're a big deal here because you have a Tesla? But I was watching last week something about people will remember Elon Musk not for the Teslas, but for the robots that are coming out
Mhm.
because they're going to invade the market. And eventually, even these cars are going to be robots that nobody's going to drive. So that's a big change. I believe they're making big plans. And if they're not making enough money, they don't want to keep losing money. So they're going to probably kill the S, and whatever they have to survive and make a big change. I believe that.
All right. He's a
Yeah,
tech
they've got it.
company. Yeah.
They're a tech company and they have to pivot, and that's exactly what you're talking about, Al. You know, Tesla was the leader in global electric vehicle sales for basically since they came into existence and started doing volume cars, after the Roadster, but once they had the S and the later models going, and they got passed last year for 2025. BYD was the biggest global automaker for electric vehicles. Again, very telling when they don't sell a single one in the US. But if the Chinese, if you need a better example of the Chinese taking over the world, they've passed Tesla in global EV sales, and Tesla is to the point now where they're not even going to produce the Model S and the Model X anymore. The first two vehicles they produced, I would argue the Halo vehicle, the S,
Yeah.
maybe, and it is old and it never got updated. And clearly Elon doesn't think it's worth investing in updating it. But, the Plaid version was one of the fastest cars for several years that you could buy. And the X with those doors and the 3 rows, that was a big deal vehicle for families. and now they can't sell enough of them to justify them. And Elon knows he's not going to make money. He's hit peak auto. He's not going to have growing sales any longer between BYD and all the other competition coming in. And of course, we've even kind of plateaued and kind of had some contraction in EV sales in the US market. So he's got to look somewhere else. He's looking at AI, he's looking at robotaxis, and he's looking at robots. And cars are kind of the old story now for him. That's a has-been business model for him, and he's moving on.
Well, that's why he's a tech company. I mean, you think about the X is an SUV, and SUVs in every brand, that's their number one selling item. And then cars are down, cars and trucks are second or third. So the thing is, he blazed a trail. He was the first to make electric vehicles successful enough to make a full business out of it, production and everything. So now he's thinking, you have to shift. You have to blaze the trail, not be the chaser. So he's going to shift to these robots. Personally, I'm a hard pass on having a robot in my house. I don't want to have something, wake up during the night to have something staring at me. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's an interesting concept. There are people that need help. I get that, but I'd rather do it myself, because if you don't practice whatever that is, driving, cutting the lawn, vacuuming, whatever, I'll do it, because if you don't do it, you lose that skill.
Yeah, you use it or lose it.
Since I'm in Miami, this is a little bit shifting. Since I'm in Miami, a lot of Venezuelans here, and a lot of the people that were killed when they went to get Maduro were Cubans. Some of the ones that survived say that the first 20 guys that came in there were so incredible that they were not human, shooting like 300 rounds per second and doing things that they never saw, and nobody could control them. I say, maybe these are the robots that they tested right now.
We'll find out down the road. You never know.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up an interesting point too, is that like so many things that humans used to do and machines do now, the future of warfare, who knows? Are we going to be sending? I mean, we know drones playing a bigger and bigger role every hour and every day in various conflicts, but could we be where there's hardly any? It's a battle of technology, and whoever's got the best tech wins.
Right, but the Chinese claim that they have the best tech. But if you talk to anyone that lives in really, really cold climates, they'll tell you a lot of these Chinese cars don't hold up as well as they could. Fine for the bulk of the world, but even in Russia, which has gone 100% Chinese cars, they've got nothing but problems. And these are going to be issues that are going to happen as Canada starts to allow 49,000 electric cars that are Chinese. We'll see how it does in the US. They're going to have to build factories here in order to survive. But Tesla, he'll just keep shifting gears. He's the Pied Piper wherever he goes. The money seems to follow.
Well, and the one thing I always want to say when people are like, why aren't we competing with China, is we can't compete with China, or we can. Here's what we got to do. No labor unions, no minimum wage, no time off for vacation. You'll get whatever health care you're allowed to get. You won't have any control over that. We can compete with China, but what we need to do to compete with China is to do what China does. And if we do what China does, and the reality of doing that, probably most Americans wouldn't go for that. So I try to remind people, don't think that we have to compete with China, or that it's a good thing to compete with China, at least not the way China does their business. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more with Lauren and Karl and our special guest, Al Vazquez, on The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl and our special guest, Al Vazquez, on this episode, talking about really the global auto industry, because Al has such good experience with that. He goes everywhere and he drives everything. Now, one of the things that's been very interesting in the industry, both domestically and internationally, is the auto show circuit. And we're right in the middle of what used to be the traditional US auto show circuit. And it was a big deal, exciting time. We all remember the glory days, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Parties, launches.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. You'd see everybody from the CEO to every single auto journalist.
Yeah, the Detroit Auto Show used to be the center of the global automotive universe. And for 3-4 days, you'd see 30, 40 press launches. Yes. You'd see concept cars from all the domestics. I remember Sunday was like concept car day, and you'd see these crazy concept cars from the big three. And then Monday and Tuesday, like dawn till dusk, it would be car intros. Yeah, you'd be rushing from stand to stand, and every stand was there. All the European stands, all the Japanese stands, even the Koreans as they were coming into the U.S. market.
And even Chinese one year, which they didn't understand our culture. I'll never forget that.
Oh, I remember seeing Cherries and Geelys and stuff in the lobby, and it's like, we're going to be in the U.S. market soon and all, which This was over 20 years ago, so they're still not here. But
And they broke
they
through
have
the
got
glass one year. One year they actually drove a Jeep through the glass, and then they also had, I don't know if it's the same with the Ram. They had all these cattle running down right in front of the stadium. That was extremely interesting.
yeah,
So
they did
real cattle.
the
That was
yeah
amazing.
they did the stampede with the to promote the Ram, and they were shepherding cattle down the street in front
They were
of
trying to
Provo.
mate in front of us too. That was,
I know, and some things they didn't plan on were happening
yeah, I
with the
don't think they
cows.
expected that. But we all laughed about it. We never forgot it, and that's when
But that
those were
was
the
huge.
glory days. Yeah.
Those were the glory days of the show. And then we know what happened with the show started to lose. The first signs were the show was losing like premium brands. All of a sudden, like, Bentley and Mercedes and Porsche stopped showing up at the Detroit show and all, but they still had some,
Us.
plenty of activity. And then they started, fewer and fewer brands were there. And then COVID hit, of course, and that pretty much finished off a lot of the domestic auto shows. And we were just talking about Detroit. LA was a big show. Chicago was a big show. New York was a big show. And then there were even little things, kind of some stuff
International.
going on in your neighborhood in Miami. There at the Miami Auto Show had some
Miami,
activity, the
yes.
Houston show, the DC show. And it's just a shell. All the shows are a shell of their former selves, at least from a journalist media point of view. Now, Al, you tell us what your opinion has been and perspective on both the past and present for auto shows.
Well, talking about the past, remember I come from Cuba. The first auto show I came in to the US, I was 15. I never seen that in my life. I was like, oh wow, I was freaking out. I wanted to go every year. And then my job took me to go to all the other auto shows. And I used to love it to go to Detroit and see these presentations one after the other nonstop. I think it's a big mistake uh, if that stops. I think it's going to come back slowly. Detroit surprised me because it was bigger than LA this year. I know bigger than Chicago. And a lot of people, a lot of action, half of what it was before, but back in January, which I like, which I think is good. And the presentations they did, they were fantastic, and I think they should come back, and I think they will because it's a mistake to kill the auto shows. That's where people love to go with their families, plan what car they're gonna buy, see them. When I went to Qatar a year and a half ago to the auto show there, it was sold out. If you wanted to come
Amazing.
in, it was sold out. People were doing lines and it was impossible to come in. So they love it. I don't know whatever ideas the car companies have that it doesn't work for them. I think it's a mistake
Mhm.
because I do go to Toyota in Dallas, for example, to their presentation when they have all the cars. It's not the same.
Mhm.
It's not the
Mhm.
same. It's completely different. So yeah, I hope they don't die. I hope they stay strong. They come back because it will be a mistake for the audiences, for the buyers, for the buyers.
It's true. It's true. And it's funny because you got Shanghai. I've not been to Shanghai or Tokyo. I've been to the South Korean auto show, also very interesting. But there used to be Geneva. I got to go once. I was hosted, and it was such a great experience. And it was always about the culture of the country and everything. But here in the U.S., LA was always, you'd see Lamborghinis and Porsches and things you wouldn't see elsewhere, partly because Galpin was nearby and they'd bring a lot of their cars. And Chicago was always the truck show. But I'll never forget this. This is sort of like bringing back my history. The first time I started going to these shows was in probably early 2000. And I remember them asking me, so like, how do we know you're an auto journalist? Can you send us proof of your work? And I had to send videotapes because I was Oprah's automotive expert. So I had to send them that. I mean, they wanted clippings from magazines and everything. And if you didn't submit enough, they would tell you you weren't accepted. Today, that's completely different. You can have an iPhone and a Facebook channel, literally a Facebook page, and you can get in on Instagram or TikTok or anything. So things have changed dramatically. They're trying to draw in media, but it's still such a great asset for consumers to bring your kids. Which minivan do you want or which SUV do you want, and see it in person and talk to your local reps, because when it's open to consumers, there's so much more there for you of what's going on in your community.
Yeah, and there's no pressure. We talked about that briefly off air, Al. You talked about how consumers don't want to go to the lot. First of all, there's usually only one brand. If you go to a massive dealership, maybe there's 4 or 5 or 6, but you certainly can't see 30 or 40 brands at any single dealership. And walking between the brands or in a single brand at a dealership, you're going to be swooped in on by various humans trying to sell you a car. And that's why the shows are so nice. People don't feel any pressure to buy. They can go and just do whatever they want. The other thing I would mention is that one of the things I'm just watching the world around me and talking to people in the industry, and it's clear that this this word, I'm sure we've all heard it by now, experiential. Experiential has become like the big deal thing. Well, what is more experiential than going to a show where there's a bunch of cars, new cars in person, and a bunch of activity? That's what those things were. When Grand Cherokees were driving through plate glass windows, how much more experiential did it get when there were a bunch of cattle on a street outside of the Detroit Auto Show with Ram trucks trying to herd them? How much more experiential does that get? So I feel like just as the shows lost some momentum because they started deciding to do things using other systems, global launches, not depending on shows, they also have the potential to get it back, like you're saying, Al, because that's where you can go and have the physical in-person experience by these cars, whether you're a consumer on the consumer days or a media outlet doing a report on the media days. So I'd like to see them come back, and I think that potential does exist. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with more with Lauren and Karl and our special guest Al Vazquez on another segment with The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment is brought to you by Issy Tire Socks. If you're slipping on ice, put on Issy Tire Socks and get rid of the stress. No fuss. You put them on just like a pair of socks. Instant traction that works. Super easy to install and very reasonably priced. You can purchase them on Amazon and Walmart.com. That's Issy Tire Socks. Really Issy. ISSE. Really Issy. Okay, now we're talking about the auto show, and you had an interesting experience. You were kind of, I hate to use this word, maybe trapped or forced to stay there for 4 days. And since we're also friends, you were telling me some of the things that were going on, but you got to see some very interesting cars, see some interesting influencers, and see what Ford is doing for racing. So you had an extra special experience.
Yes, I was one of the lucky ones, I guess, if I can say that, that was invited, because many of the people that came invited, I met for the first time. Influencers, which journalists are not influencers, okay? It's completely different. Even though some of them try to be, but they're not. And we had this experience where we went to see the new Mustang SE, beautiful car. And you were given like a couple of minutes to walk around the car and all that. And a beautiful influencer, I mean, gorgeous girl, came in, started doing handstand in front of the car, even falling down and getting up. And I was waiting for her to say something about the car, do something. No, that was it. Come to Detroit, you were invited. You're going to do a handstand in front of the car, and boom, you're a star.
I
have
can't,
no idea
I don't
what
get
that is.
that. That
I
doesn't
don't
make
get
any
that. I
sense.
mean, I love seeing it because she was beautiful, but what the hell is that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. And that I feel like that gets back to what we were talking about before, was this kind of, the shows are not, they're not going to survive in a traditional sense if they just keep doing what they were doing for so many years. They can't just have journalists come in and show the new cars. They have to have influencers come in, and they have to like combine what we've already talked about in the show, the authenticity or the personality that these influencers have, somehow merged with the cars. And in this case, it was a girl who was obviously trained for almost like Cirque du Soleil type stuff and all. You had a short video that you showed us, Al, and she's doing handstands and all in front of the vehicle. But for her audience, that's her being her with the car in the background. And I was on a recent press launch for a Ducati in Colorado, and it was a really great press launch, great riding experience. And there was a girl there. She's from Utah, and she can totally ride. She's very capable and a serious, genuine motorcyclist. But some of the BTS that I saw her doing, but in between the rides and at stops, was her standing next to the bike, her sitting on the bike, her kind of positioned around the bike in various the ways that you never would have seen on a bike intro 5-10 years ago. You would have seen photos of the bike. Maybe the author would have one photo of him standing next to the bike. And of course, if there's going to be driving shots, he'd be on the bike, going around corners, knee dragging with the media crew from the motorcycle brand, helping get those photos. You see him there. But casual hanging out with the bike photos, you didn't see that. But she was taking a lot of those photos. Of course, she was an attractive female and she looked good next to the bike. So she's got an audience that she's building with not just traditional motorcycle photos and motorcycle images, but her kind of adding herself to the story, which, like you just said, Al, that's the essence of influencer versus journalist. Journalist reports on the vehicle and they're not the story at all. Influencer sort of reports on the vehicle and really reports on themselves with the vehicle.
Yeah, it's something completely different. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm never part of it, because people do want to see me, because that's my audience. But I I have limits to what I want to do, what I don't want
No
to do.
handstands.
Yeah, it's complicated, but yeah, I mean, if it is what it is. Sometimes I'm not invited to some events that I like to go, and then I see people with black nails and blue hair invited. I say, "Oh my God, what's going on?" Who knows?
Hey,
Well,
you've
you
done
did.
some stuff too, Al. Al reviews electric scooters and motorcycles and all kinds of stuff. And didn't you have an accident? You were shooting
I
and you
did.
had you were in the
I did.
hospital.
I did. I was in the hospital for a couple of days because they sent me a scooter, and I put a GoPro in front of it. And in a big bicycle, you let go of one hand, nothing happens. On a scooter going 30 miles per hour, no. And my GoPro was falling, and I went to grab it, and I flipped. No
Oh
helmet,
gosh.
no helmet.
Oh,
So I
you're
ended up
wearing a
in the
helmet
hospital.
now, I hope.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I remember you sent me a picture in the hospital. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
Yeah.
you do some kind of crazy things. I know you've lost a very expensive tripod off the back of a truck, and sometimes you get to drive in some really unique areas of South America that I don't think Carl and I have ever experienced anything like that.
yeah. In Bolivia, they have a trail that is called Death Trail, which has a fall like I don't know 3,000 meters down. And if you have one car coming this way, the other one cannot come this way, and sometimes
Oh.
that happens. And sometimes it's complicated.
Yeah. I say, what do you do? Back up or like?
Yeah. You have
It's,
an 82-point turn,
yeah.
U-turn that you have to make. You're just doing this. But you did go with Ford. You did see this influencer, but you also learned some actual, news that was going on. You
Well,
mentioned the Mustang
they
SC.
took
Tell us
us.
about
Yeah,
what Ford showed you.
Dark horse, yeah.
yeah. They took us to this like off the record things to show the what they're doing with F1 and Red Bull and the engine. It was incredible because I did learn a few things. They making a big effort on this engine. They brought people in to show like with these 3D goggles inside the engine what they're doing, what they're changing, and the fact that they moved everybody working on that engine had to move. They have to be all together in one big warehouse because I don't want to waste time doing emails and did you see
Mm.
this? Everybody has to be on the same place, and they're making a big deal, a big effort with that. So I learned a lot about it, and I was impressed with what they're doing. It's very expensive what they're doing. Okay, they're spending a lot of money on that.
Mhm.
So I
A
hope
lot of
that,
racing.
yeah, it's very expensive. So it was a great experience to see that and be part of it.
Did you get to meet
Yeah.
Max Verstappen, which is their driver, their
No, I
F1
didn't. I
driver?
never even saw him. I
Oh,
know they say
it's
there
a
was so many
personal
people
thing.
at the actual presentation. No, 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 no. I want them to take me to meet Trump at the factory, and they didn't. When I saw they were like giving him a tour, I said, "Oh, I want to go on," but that didn't happen either.
That's interesting. I found that interesting that he was speaking at the factory with Bill Ford and with Jim Farley, who's the CEO, and they didn't bring the regular media, at least. I mean,
No,
obviously, wouldn't bring an influencer,
no.
but they only brought regular press, and they made you guys sit in a warehouse and look at things, which is fine. But it was interesting that there wasn't some sort of merger of that use of media.
At the same time it was happening, I would say, "Oh my God, that's what I want to be," and I didn't.
That would have
I
been
did it.
interesting, at least.
I did it. I say it loud. Nobody answered back to me, so I said, "Okay, I guess not."
Message
Well,
received.
we're gonna take a quick break. We will be back for another segment with Lauren and Carl and Al on the drive with Lauren and Carl. Welcome back to the drive with Lauren and Carl, and this segment is brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars. That's my YouTube channel. I'm putting up 1 to 2 videos a week. You're seeing everything from Nissan Leafs to Lamborghini Temerarios. In fact, actually, we're going to talk about both those during this segment. But you know, speaking of outlets, Al, you've got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Tell us where people can find you because you've got a pretty broad spectrum of channels out there for people to see
Well,
Al Vasquez.
if you Google my name, Al Vasquez, they all will come up. Same thing on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, because I'm putting everything on X, no matter what. And yeah, just my name, and it will appear. A lot of
And
things will.
and do you generate, I'm curious, do you generate revenue from all those? Do pretty much all of them generate some level of revenue for you?
Yes, I'm lately TikTok created a like a group of journalists to cover cars, and whatever you make, they triple for you as a member of this group. And
Wow.
I'm surprised that they picked me because I think I'm the only one speak Spanish there. The rest don't. So even TikTok, I'm making money now on TikTok, which people say no, no, no. But I make sure I publish every day in all of them. Instagram, I don't make a lot of money, but clients do want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal for dealers and all that. So I think they're all important.
Okay.
Even Facebook's growing a lot. And in Facebook, I just send things there. I don't even go inside. I just share Instagram with Facebook. Everything
Wow.
comes
Yep.
from there. And that channel has already over 100,000 followers, which I'm surprised, which I never go there. So yeah.
Spell your name for us because I want to make
Carl
sure they get it.
Vazquez. It's Vazquez, but it's Vazquez. Vazquez.
Yes,
Yeah,
2 Z's. Yes, make
two
sure you get
C's.
that right. Yeah, because you want to find out.
Vazquez.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
Yes.
And I know that you've got a lot of numbers on literally everything from. I see you on Threads too. Is there any social media you're not on?
Well, if something comes on, I'll put it because sometimes it's easy to share, and I'll do that just to be there. And I guess it's great, Lauren, when I'm traveling around, people come up to me everywhere, even here in Costco. Somebody came up to me the other day to complain about me saying bad things about Tesla, and he drives a Tesla. And I said, okay, okay. So
That's
yeah,
so funny. And we've been together and we've been at a dinner for whatever brand, and the waiter or someone at the table next to us, we were at a place in Miami called Sexy Fish, and the
yeah.
table next to us was going crazy. My husband happened to be with me. We were laughing because they're like, "Oh my God, it's Al Vasquez. We need to get photos." And they wanted autographs. And I said, "This is amazing how much you've grown." And I remember you coming in saying, "I don't know what to do." And the success you've had that you've earned every bit of it has been really, really impressive. So kudos to you.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
great
For
stuff, Al. That's
Yeah.
great stuff. So we all get to do car stuff in this industry, and let's talk a little bit about each of the cars we've driven. I'm gonna talk real briefly about the Lamborghini Temerario that I mentioned because I just had one of those.
Fun.
Lamborghini was kind enough to get it to me fairly early in its availability in the press loans, and I really enjoyed it. And I got to tell you, Lamborghini as a brand has elevated. It's an ascendant brand in my mind. They're just the engineering and the execution. The Temerario, the all-wheel drive, 907 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, and in my opinion, the best cabin layout and space of any Lamborghini. I like it even better than the Revolta, which is also really good. That's their new top-end car. But this entry level, quote unquote, entry level car starts at $400,000. But
Not your daily driver.
not your daily driver, but its layout is fabulous. I just really like it. How about you guys? What's some cars you've driven recently?
Now, what are you driving?
Well, right now it's a Nissan Leaf, but I want to talk because in the last month, about I don't know, $7 million have come through my hands. First, I did the Bugatti Tourbillon, which I freaked out when I saw it because it's a hybrid,
Beautiful.
and all the gauges are like the watch, like the Tourbillon watch, all mechanics. And just looking at that, I spent maybe half an hour looking at it because it was fantastic. And it's the first time they called me. I never done a Bugatti in my life, so they called me and said, "Oh my God, what a great 3 hours to spend with the car, just me and the car. It was great. I didn't drive it, but I just being there and talking about it and looking at it for the first time, like touching everything. I said, wow. And
That's fabulous.
I don't have $5 million, but I don't know. And then last week I had the Aston Martin Vanquish in my house, $550,000. Though that one I had for a whole week, just driving up and down Miami. Oh my God. I say
Good way to
with
meet
this
interesting
car,
people.
I would pick up a lot of girls.
That's fabulous.
Beautiful. A
All
great
right.
car,
Yeah.
fast. I don't know if it would be like my only car because I thought it was a little bit difficult to drive, like not soft, but I would love to have it for once in a while, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's awesome. I'll be putting all my car reviews up on Car Smarts, and we'll be back next week. Remember, you can find us on our YouTube channel, The Drive Car Show, and we'll be back next week.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Carl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.